Hey guys, good evening, good evening. It is Fertility Talk live and it's Wednesday evening, so 8 o'clock. We've got a great speaker this evening, which is Sonia. So we're just going to give everyone a chance to join us. Hey guys, hey everyone, thanks for joining. So if you are doing IVF anytime soon and you're wondering what you need to take to help you, what nutrients your body's going to need, what's going to help you and assist you through this journey with IVF. This is definitely the talk. You'll be talking to Sonia, and she's from Stir Health. So I'm just going to give her like 2 or 3 minutes. I'm going to see if she's available. Oh, she's on. There we go. She's there. Hi, Sonia. See you. I will add you in just a few minutes. So we've got some great questions, and I don't know if you guys saw on my story. In my story, I actually put some of the questions there, like what nutrients are important for fertility, and are there any specific dietary supplements that you can take to support fertility, and are there any foods that you should avoid? And I think that's a question that most of you guys would ask your doctors or your nutritionist. So Sonia, I know she deals specifically in fertility, nutrients and things like that I'm lost for words this evening. She deals specifically with fertility, a dietitian in the fertility field. So if you guys have any questions relating to infertility and what you should eat and any questions in that regard, please pop it in the comment section, and if we have enough time, we will ask it. But I'm going to invite Sonia now, and she can introduce herself. Let me just do that. Let me just see Sonia. There we go. A couple of seconds, and she'll be on. Hi, Akifa. Joined. Hi, Sonia. How are you?
Hi, Leanne. I'm great. Nice to see you.
Great. You too. I said I don't know why, but I'm just it's like I'm lost for words, and I'm never lost for words. I can always talk. Okay, so thank you for joining us. Thanks for joining us. Maybe if you can just start off by introducing yourself and where you're from, what it is that you do.
Absolutely. So my name is Sonia Melchick. I am originally from Canada. I am a Canadian registered dietitian, but I am now based in Cape Town, specifically focused on basically the first 1,000 days. So I'll talk a little bit more, but from preconception all the way through to toddlerhood. I also do quite a lot of work with the University of Cape Town. So I've been working in nutrition research basically since I finished my studies, all actually also related to the first 1,000 days, which I think is part of the reason why I'm so passionate about this space, because I've been part of a lot of emerging research that's showing how important it is. So yeah, it's a little bit of a background about sort of my dietetic life so far. And yeah, I have just a really huge passion for early life nutrition.
Awesome. And then I don't know if you guys have noticed that Sonia's actually been sending us articles every week. So we've been putting up all the articles on nutrition. So you can head over to the blog, or if you are subscribed to our newsletter, you will get that emails every week. There's another one coming out this week, Thursday. So every Thursday, you get a newsletter with all the articles that Sonia has been writing for us as well. So thank you very much for those articles. They're great.
Such a pleasure.
Okay, so we're just going to get straight into the questions. Is what is the first 1,000 days and why is it so important?
Okay, so the first 1,000 days is basically from preconception until children are 2 years old. And it's actually when the majority of genetic programming occurs. So what you eat during this window, including preconception, it goes on to impact your baby's health. So things like brain development, immune system development, gut health, etc. It also obviously has an effect during pregnancy, so that's part of the first 1,000 days, and then until children are 2. So this includes breastfeeding and also complementary feeding and what our infants and toddlers are eating. So in terms of preconception, I suppose it's important to remember that your eggs and sperm, it's the genetic material for your baby. So optimizing your nutrition for your eggs and your sperm now, before they become an embryo, is super crucial. So that's sort of the preconception part of the first 1,000 days. Pregnancy also is a really big part of the first 1,000 days. So what we're eating during pregnancy also really impacts baby and, well, mom's health and baby's health. But I think a lot of moms will specifically think about baby's health. And we've got research now that's emerging that's showing that it impacts development of allergies. So for example, consuming common allergens during the trimester where your baby's immune system is really developing. So consuming things like nuts, tree nuts, peanuts, soy, wheat, fish, dairy, those types of common allergens, if you consume them during pregnancy when your baby's immune system is developing, it's almost like a gentle introduction to these allergens so that when they are exposed to them in the real world, they are familiar with them. So like preventing allergies is a really incredible thing you can do with your nutrition during pregnancy, as is even food preferences. Babies start swallowing amniotic fluid, so what you eat affects what baby eats. So anyway, that's an aside, but basically pregnancy is also a really big important part of the first 1,000 days, and then postpartum as well until the kids are about 2.
Okay, and then which nutrients are most important for fertility?
So this is quite a big question, but I would sort of highlight a few. So folate is quite an important nutrient for fertility. So in early pregnancy, it's particularly important for the neural tube to close, so preventing neural tube defects. So it's important preconception as well, so that your body stores are already there do fall pregnant. Iron is also really important for preconception, and it is something that a lot of women are low on. So it's something that is great to check with preconception blood work just to make sure your iron stores are okay, and if not, adjust your diet or adjust your supplement intake. Vitamin D, another nutrient that's super important for fertility, and again can be low in some women. In South Africa, we're lucky because we have a lot of sunshine and our bodies can make vitamin D if we spend that time in the sun. But not all of us do, and not all of our bodies can make enough. So it's another really important nutrient to check. And this is something that I really encourage women to do, is to do some preconception blood work before when they start thinking about starting a family. Work done. So looking at your iron levels, your vitamin D levels, your vitamin B12, your HbA1c, a complete blood count, a few things just to make sure that your body is really in good shape to conceive your little bub. So those are sort of the main ones that I really like to focus on. Iodine is also important, vitamin B12, omega-3s, there are quite a few, but it's one of those things that is very individualized. So looking at what your current dietary intake is, and then assessing, okay, well, it looks like you are getting enough omega-3 and the B12 from your blood work came back strong, but let's look at vitamin D. Your vitamin D is low and you're not getting enough dietary sources. So that's the kind of consults, or that's the kind of benefit you get from working with a dietitian to understand what's important for fertility, what's important for your body, what you're getting from your current diet, and then how to sort of close the gaps in anything that you're not meeting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you. And then the next question is, are there any specific dietary patterns that support fertility?
Another great question. So yes, there are. The one that's probably been studied the most is the Mediterranean diet. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's basically a high intake of vegetables and fruits and whole grains and legumes and fish and nuts and seeds. And then the real hero, it seems to be, is extra virgin olive oil. So we're pretty sure the reason why it's so beneficial for fertility is because it has a high antioxidant load, and it also has anti-inflammatory effects. And these are obviously really helpful for fertility. It also has a lot of fiber. The omega-3s you're getting from your fish, the monounsaturated fatty acids you're getting from your nuts and seeds. It's just got a lot of those really fertility-friendly nutrients, and it's kind of in research, it's definitely the dietary pattern that sort of shines the brightest.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know if it's on your side or is it on my side this evening, but the connection is just going all the time.
Oh no. Okay, I've got you loud and clear, so I hope it's
Oh,
not.
okay. Okay, now I think it should be fine now. Sorry
No,
about that.
no problem.
Okay, then the next questions are there any specific supplements? So this is a big one,
Mm,
because women are always asking, like, what is perfect for me? I'm trying to conceive what medication to take. And I'm always saying, like, this is what everyone else take, but I can't exactly say, like, this is what you need to take. So
totally.
what would you recommend in that?
So it is a very big question. I think the biggest thing is that supplement intake should be individualized and tailored to every individual. So the other thing to remember is I really believe in a food first approach. So get what you can from your diet and think of
Yeah.
supplements as an insurance policy. So it's there just in case you don't, something or you get what you need and it's there as sort of backup. I suppose infertility, it's a little bit different. It's actually a really important time to consider everything, but specifically your nutrition and your supplement intake. It's almost, I suppose, if we stay with the insurance analogy,
Yeah.
you want to really make sure you're covered during preconception and pregnancy. So it's definitely a time to look at supplement intake. Again, my sort of recommendation is always to do that preconception blood work for those basics, so vitamin B12, vitamin D, iron, etc. See where we're at with those. There are some supplements that are really, really beneficial for certain cases. So for example, many of you will have heard of coenzyme Q10. This is often recognized to be really beneficial in women over 35 years. But again, we can find it in our food. It's in red meat, it's in fish, it's in avocado. So it's good to look at your dietary intake first. And it's also good to check in with a healthcare practitioner who sort of understands the impacts of it and get the right dosage and make sure it sort of fits into your health plan. Inositols, also you guys probably would have heard of. These have an influence on these have an influence on insulin action. And these can be particularly helpful with polycystic ovarian syndrome. So again, it can be found in foods, things as fruits and beans and grains, and nuts. These all contain naturally inositols, but again, for specific cases, it's really important. Folate's another one that is a nutrient or a supplement that I often look at, or omega-3s. I think what's most important is to look at the patient as a whole. So see what their medical background is, what medications they might be on, there's sort of nutrient interactions that can happen, what supplements they're already taking. So I often see in clients, they're taking things that they think are beneficial, but too much of a good thing is also a thing.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask that question. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So for example, turmeric supplements, that's a great example in fertility. So basically, a lot of people are really excited about the anti-inflammatory effects of turmeric, and definitely.
Are you there, Sonia? Yeah, I'm here.
Turmeric definitely has incredible anti-inflammatory effects, and that is beneficial for fertility. But turmeric has been found in the case of fertility in high doses, so like medicinal doses, if you're taking capsules or if you're having a turmeric latte every day, those higher doses of turmeric haven't been shown to be beneficial for fertility, which is quite interesting because we all think that, okay, turmeric is good, let me get as much as I can. But actually, it reduces the likelihood of implantation, and it also shows that research is showing that it also has an impact on male fertility. So we're seeing that it lowers testosterone levels. So I'm not saying at all that you must reduce or limit the turmeric that you're already having in your diet if you're using it in sort of moderate amounts in your curries or, in your drinks every once in a while. But it's just one of those nutrients you don't want to overdo in fertility. And not everyone knows that, because we're only sort of just learning how these different nutrients and supplements affect our fertility.
Yeah. Wow, I had no idea. I would think that turmeric is a really, really good supplement. You're always trying to add it to different things. Just
not,
thanks for that.
not in those medicinal amounts. So it's like, taking turmeric capsules or having high doses of turmeric every day. Please continue having your curries and your, you know, as a general spice, but not something you want to have too much of.
Okay. So the other one is, are there any foods that we should avoid when trying to conceive?
Yes, definitely. So there are some that may appear quite obvious or just sort of for general health, but they're just extra important in fertility, because if we think about it, to be fertile just means that our body is in like the best state possible. So we want to be in our optimum health. So things like limiting foods that are, or foods and drinks that are high in sugar. Drinks are quite a easy way to get too much sugar very quickly, including juices. Eat your fruit, don't drink. The other side of that coin is a lot of people will then change to diet drinks to reduce their sugar intake. And unfortunately, that's not the answer either. Artificial sweeteners are not beneficial, just general health. They're not doing great things for us. So you want to limit the artificial sweeteners that you have in your diet as well. Then alcohol. So this is something that some people believe you only really need to worry about in pregnancy, but actually it's really beneficial to limit your alcohol intake when you're trying to conceive as well. And this doesn't only go for the ladies, it's also in male preconception nutrition. It's recommended to limit alcohol. It's been found to decrease implantation rates, and it's been found to impact ovulation. So alcohol is definitely something that you want to limit as much as possible if you're trying to conceive. And then the other sort of bad guy out there is saturated fats. So we don't want to be consuming too many saturated fats. So these are the fats that typically come in the animal sources. So, you know, the skin on your chicken, or the really high fat cheeses. Again, these are things that you just want to include in moderation. Saturated fats are also in some plant-based sources. So for the vegetarians and vegans out there, you're not totally in the clear. We do find saturated fats in things like coconut oil. So you do want to be just very mindful of how much you're having in terms of saturated fat. Thankfully, this is one of the nutrients listed on nutritional labels. So if you are comfortable reading nutritional labels, this is something you can actually learn and understand in your local grocery store, which is really empowering. So it's just one of those things you want to be aware of. And then the final thing that I would recommend is foods wrapped in plastic. So those of you who are familiar with BPA, so we know it impacts our hormones, and although we don't have concrete evidence that it directly impacts our fertility, it's generally recommended that women that are trying to conceive have minimal exposure to BPAs. So this includes foods wrapped in plastic, but also a plastic water bottle. Rather have an aluminum or a glass drinking vessel instead of that plastic if you can.
Yeah, okay. Is there anything else? Sorry, I didn't catch you off there, did I?
That's a good list to start with. I don't want to overdo it.
Okay. Okay, perfect. And then, does male preconception nutrition matter?
Yes, absolutely. So what I think everyone just needs to remember is that the guy or the man or your partner will be providing 50% of the genetic material for your future baby. So his nutrition is also essential. This starts with simple things such as having a healthy weight. So also we're seeing in research that the paternal or the male's weight during the conception period impacts baby's health. His physical activity levels, because physical activity levels in the body impacts our hormones and our stress release hormones and so on. So physical activity levels are really positive in terms of male preconception. And then similar to the nutrients that are important to women in the preconception period, zinc's important, folate's important, omega-3 is important, and then, as I mentioned before, limiting alcohol. So it's definitely a two-person job. We are really seeing that male nutrition impacts the chances of conceiving, but also lifelong health of future baby. So if you can get your partner on board, it really is an incredible thing to do together. And it also makes sense if you're living together, working together, you're at home, you're sharing meals. It's a great thing to do as a partnership, and it's another way of getting your partner on board. I think a lot of the time, all the sort of onus falls on women to be healthy and to be mindful and get left behind. And in a way, this is a way of including them, and it's such an important way of doing it. And then to develop these habits and learn these sort of skills in the preconception period, if you can carry them out throughout pregnancy, I mean, you're setting up not only your baby for lifelong health, but also, I mean, your whole family. So it's quite an amazing time to focus on your nutrition, and a great place to put your energy and focus in this really special time of life.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I've got a quick question for you. We've got one of the questions from the ladies was asking about, she's saying, is that like the cucumbers wrapped in cling wrap? You know, if cucumbers come with a cling wrap on?
So
that's an
example of it. And a lot of things come wrapped in plastic now. So it's hard to avoid it completely. Wherever you can, use, you know, have the loose leaf, not loose leaf, but like loose vegetables and fruit. But again, you don't need to take these suggestions as a hard line. Like, I don't want anyone to stop eating because you can't get a cucumber that's not wrapped in plastic. It's just a generalization. Just be weary of your plastics. And the other thing is, even things like your Tupperwares, if possible, switch to glass Tupperwares if you can, or in the very least, if you're using plastic Tupperwares, just make sure they're not getting in contact with too much heat. So this would include putting them in the dishwasher or putting them in the microwave. You just want to really be sure that you're limiting your exposure to sort of those negative BPAs that are in plastics, and that's another.
Oh, okay. So actually, like, you know, when you're warming food, rather put it in a plate instead of a Tupperware dish and in the microwave.
Yeah.
I've actually got quite a good question for you.
Yes.
And it's maybe just to give the women that's listening a bit of insight.
Okay.
Why is it important, or what is the benefit of actually seeing a fertility dietitian before you start your journey with IVF or anything else in the fertility? If you're trying to conceive, what is the benefits of seeing a fertility dietitian specifically?
Great question. So basically, it's just such an important time to eat well, as you understand, I think now from our chat this evening. But it's also a really helpful time to sort of check in on your own health. So getting that initial blood work done and knowing where you might have some deficiencies and knowing where there might be some issues. You know, often we'll pick up things in women in this preconception blood work that we didn't know was an issue. You know, women who didn't know they were anemic, or I had a client who actually had iron overload and had no idea until we did this fertility blood work. So that's quite an important part of really having a baseline of knowing where you're at, and then how we can make changes with your nutrition. And this includes supplements, right? So if we pick up something in the blood work that you see is, you know, maybe a deficiency or an overload, that's something we would correct either with diet, or we'd start with food first and then look to supplements and see, okay, well, maybe we're not going to quite meet it with our diet alone, so let's look at adding in this supplement. So that individualized supplement advice is also really valuable. And again, wherever possible, I love working with couples, so to get partner on board, but it just makes a big difference to have that foundation. And I think the other thing that is really a nice focus for women, so women who are struggling with fertility, this is something that you have a bit of control over, and that is a really positive, has a really positive impact on sort of your day-to-day. So you'll feel better, and you'll feel like you have a little bit of control somewhere, because at least you're understanding health and nutrition and how what you're putting in your body affects your body. So I think it's a really beautiful time to have that focus and learn those skills that I feel we all deserve to know and all deserve to understand. But I think it's just the education isn't out there. And I suppose why a fertility dietitian? So dietitians that have sort of specialized in this space often have further qualifications. So I'm certified in fertility nutrition, and it makes a big difference because of these little sort of extra things that we're learning and research all the time. As a fertility dietitian, I'm constantly following fertility nutrition evidence that's emerging regularly and coming thick and fast. Like, we're learning more and more about how diet affects fertility and how diet affects pregnancy and children. We sort of knew and understood and agreed, and everyone really understood that. But I think the fertility space is a little bit newer, but really being, I suppose, supported by more and more research, which is really encouraging to see. And registered dietitians typically follow an evidence-based practice, and this just means that they're following the research and they're making sure that their recommendations are sort of current and related to what is in the research at the moment.
I always, when we're talking to someone that is more in the space of preconception, as opposed to, the actual fertility specialist. So when it's just the pre stages, I'm always trying to tell women out there that it's actually cheaper to go and do those tests or go and see that dietitian or genetics person or whatever it may be, so that when you get to it, actually save you money. It could save you money at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Instead of going through the whole procedure of IVF and everything, and then realizing afterwards when it's unfortunately a failure, it's because you're missing this or you're missing that, which could have been prevented, by doing the pre-work, the work in the beginning.
And we see quite regularly a lot of, or not a lot, but often when we have cases of unexplained fertility, it can be just masked celiac disease. So women that are gluten intolerant, but they're not aware of it, and that has a huge impact on your fertility. So simple things like that if you can check them and sort of get them under wraps before you're ready to conceive, it really makes a big difference.
Awesome. Thank you very much. If you could just please give us, if anybody out there wants to get hold of you, if you could just please give them your details, how they can get hold of you, contact you, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose the best way is to reach me on my email address. So it's Sonia at StirHealth, SONIA at STIRHEALTH.com. And then stirhealth.com is my website. So that's where all my bookings are. And you can also reach out to me on social media, whatever is simplest for you. But yeah, as I said, my practice is based in Nuremberg, but I do see clients virtually. So we can do everything virtually if that is more suitable, or if you are not based in Cape Town. Always love to meet people in person when I can, but we can definitely do everything virtually. I'm fully booked for the month of April, but have availabilities from May. So very happy to answer any emails or questions in the meantime, and then take on new clients from the beginning of May.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for taking time to do this talk with us. It's been great. I will put, if anyone's looking for Sonia's details, I will put it in the bottom in the comment section once I put the upload the video on our YouTube channel as well as on Instagram. So thank you very much for joining us, Sonia.
Such a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thanks very much. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.